Hi, everyone. I'm Sharon Matthew, founder and CEO of AI Technod, and welcome to our business track. How can business adopt AI? I'm joined by amazing speakers today. Sophie Gray from Microsoft, who is the Customer Success Director, Heather Daw, UK Data Lead. Then we got Didem Onetes from Accenture. And we'll be discussing how your businesses can actually adopt AI. We'll be having some questions from summiteers in the chat box. So if you have any questions that we need to address, feel free to post it. But at this stage, I want to pass over the stage to Sophie Gray. Over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Sharon. And hopefully all of you can hear me from my home here down on the south coast near Brighton. Firstly, just to acknowledge, I hope you've all enjoyed hearing today from the speakers about their hands-on experiences with artificial intelligence and the underlying technology. Now, in this final session, as Sharon said, we'll be looking at how you can actually address how businesses can adopt artificial intelligence. First, we'll be taking a look at the market opportunity, and then we'll be introducing a framework, not specific to Microsoft as an organization, but a framework that may help you tackle the adoption challenges that you face with AI. I'll then be welcoming back to the stage Sharon and two virtual guests as referenced there, Heather and Didem. So just firstly, taking, I guess, a little look about the history of artificial intelligence, not to go back too far in time. But as we know, the concept of artificial intelligence has been around for centuries. And it was back in the 1950s where the true possibility of this was actually explored. There was a generation of scientists, mathematicians, and philosophers, and they all had the concept of AI. But it wasn't until one British polymath, Alan Turing, suggested that if humans use available information as well as reason to solve problems and make decisions, then actually why can't machines do the same thing? So as we fast forward a very long time from then to 2020, no doubt that everybody in the audience today has had varying experiences with AI, whether you be a consumer of it, a developer of it, or a leading driver of the exploration of AI within an organization. In 2020, there are two big trends, though, that dominate the market. Firstly, the democratization of AI no being longer exclusive to subject matter experts, and AI being accessible and present for all in their everyday working lives. And secondly, the industrialization of AI, where we address the reusability, the scalability, and the safety of AI, which can help drive the acceleration of its adoption and growth. If we take a little look at Gartner's 4-year prediction for AI, we can actually see the revenue expectations for AI within the public cloud, and the strong expectation that there will be in the actual number of projects that are going into deployment, which is a consistent challenge that organizations can face about getting these projects into production. Despite the global impact, Gartner also reported that 47% of artificial intelligence investments were unchanged since the start of the pandemic. 30% of organizations actually planned to increase such investments and increase their innovation. And also only 16% had temporarily suspended their AI investments. Just 7% had actually deceased them. During the pandemic, for example, AI actually came to the rescue, and certainly we saw this at Microsoft. I think chatbots became the big thing that was actually helping answer the flood of pandemic-related questions. Computer vision started to help maintain social distancing, and machine learning models were actually indispensable for modeling the effects of reopening the economies. And all of these technologies are still obviously very, very present today in the world that we're living in during the COVID crisis. It is anticipated that within these 4 years, we will see about between about 70 and 90% of all initial customer interactions being conducted or managed by artificial intelligence. We'll see product development could increasingly be undertaken and tested by AI. AI is likely to be deployed across all government organizations and legal systems, only actually having to have human intervention to the most complex of cases that require human judgment. We'll see more autonomous driving, and vehicles will start appearing in many more cities around the world. And intelligent assistants can now be managing large parts of our lives, from travel through to planning, to the compiling of information that we need prior to a meeting. And certainly we see that today through not only Microsoft's innovation, but lots of other cloud vendor providers' technology. But as we do know, there are significant barriers to the adoption of actually taking on artificial intelligence into an organization and into our everyday lives. Some of the top challenges reported are the security and privacy concerns of the subject of AI, so the person that the AI or organization is actually about, the complexity of actually deploying those AI solutions where there is a high legacy infrastructure, and the complexity of existing data sets in organizations, maybe the quality or the siloed nature of those particular data sets. I'm going to hand over to actually my colleague, Daniel Kenyon-Smith. And Dan is one of the cloud transformation leads at Microsoft. And Dan has great experience in the world of what we personally refer to as the cloud adoption framework and how that relates to the concept of data and artificial intelligence. And like I said, this is a relatively abstract model that we'll be taking a look at here, not specific to Microsoft as an organization, but hopefully some of these principles will help you think as business leaders within an organization about the journey and process that you need to go to. So Dan, over to yourself, please.
I just want to spend the next few slides talking about the framework that you can use to successfully adopt cloud and AI inside your business. So as Sophie mentioned, my name is Dan Kenyon-Smith and I lead a team of cloud solution architects in our customer success business here in the UK. So Microsoft used this particular framework, but like I say, it's not specific to Microsoft, and it's what we call the cloud adoption framework for adopting cloud and adopting Azure, Microsoft perspective, and obviously AI in your businesses. And basically, it's a proven set of guidance that's designed to help you create, align, and implement your business and technology strategies to help you be successful in the cloud. It provides some best practice documentation, tools for cloud architects, IT professionals, business decision makers, in order for you to achieve that successful blend between short-term and long-term objectives for your business. The purpose of the framework is to balance between speed and agility, and at the same time, give you that control and confidence to be able to adopt the cloud and AI. So it means you need to be agile and align your people, process, and technology to ensure that you achieve those business goals with efficient and comprehensive guidance to deliver the results that you want for your business within the guardrails of control and sustainability. The overall sort of structure of the cloud adoption framework is aligned to what we typically see a customer cloud journey. And it's not linear. It's a process of a cycle that repeats itself as the cloud adoption for your business evolves. So if we start with something like the definition of your strategy, first of all, everybody needs to be aligned to why are we moving to the cloud. If the answer is because we were told, or because the board agreed it, or because the CIO or exec level told us that we need to move to the cloud, then it's unlikely that the business will achieve the desired outcomes. So some of the triggers that everybody needs to be aligned to could be things like you've got a data center exit, could be mergers, acquisitions, reduction in capital expenses. It could be an end of life for a mission critical application or technology, cost savings, optimizations, increasing business agility, scaling to new market demands. There could be a whole raft of reasons, but you need to make sure that everybody is aligned with that defined strategy. The next thing to think about is to plan. So you need to make sure that your plan converts your aspirational goals of your cloud strategy into an actionable plan. You can use that plan then to guide both your technical teams and your business strategy. You can use this to drive things like assessments, to be able to rationalize what you have on premise and what that might look like in the cloud, building things like skills, readiness plans, and identifying any gaps and capture any concerns from the team to make sure you're taking everybody onto that on the same journey. From a ready perspective, that's about getting your sort of landing zones, as we call them, in place. So think of a landing zone as building a new town or city. You need to get all of your pipes in, you need to get the electricity in, you need to build the roads, you need to get everything in place before you build the first house. In the cloud, the landing zone is getting the networking in place, it's getting all of the relevant designs and architectures in place, and then the first house is actually your first application that you move into the cloud. So that will then allow your migration or cloud native applications to scale, and you won't hit any adoption sort of blockers. The next one is around adoption. So how are you going to migrate your first workload onto that landing zone and then increase that velocity using best practices and innovating your existing workloads or new workloads for cloud native. And then obviously you have to wrap that around governance. So governance is that iterative process. So if you have existing policies on premise, then you just need to complement those policies for the cloud to make sure that your estate, your business changes over time, and the cloud governance and process and policies also adopt and change over time as well. As far as managed is concerned, it's just having that plan in place for reliable, well-managed operations for your cloud solutions. So that's the high-level sort of overview, I guess, of the cloud adoption framework. Just wanted to talk through a couple of sort of examples of customers that we've worked across. There's a couple of industries here, so just wanted to mention a couple of examples across these two industries. So thinking of things like predictive maintenance in manufacturing helps you determine, if a specific component, might fail, and therefore you can obviously order or replace that component before it actually does, and therefore reducing the amount of downtime for that particular part of the business or for that particular machine. As Sophie sort of briefly mentioned, obviously healthcare in the current environment, things like digital assistants, using things like chatbots, natural language, conversational experiences to help answer things like standard questions, constantly then training your models to answer new and common questions that are coming through. And I say, given the current situation, we're seeing, a huge demand for, digital assistants to accelerate across many industries, not just healthcare. So that's all I wanted to say. So thanks very much for everybody's time. I'm going to hand back over now to Sophie to lead the panel discussion.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Dan. I think everybody can hear me there. So I appreciate that was a little bit of a whirlwind tour there, covering, I guess, some of the main adoption challenges and I guess one approach that you could take with it. But we wanted to, I guess, cover that relatively quickly to make sure we had time for a really good panel discussion with Shireen, Didym and Heather, who have real hands-on life experience in tackling the adoption of AI within organisations. So firstly, Didym, are you perhaps happy to introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you, Sophie. I'm Didym Ateş. I lead data AI for Accenture's Microsoft Business Group in Europe. Wonderful to be here. And prior to Accenture, I was with Microsoft. This is kind of a reunion for me.
Very good. Thank you, Didym. And Heather, yourself.
Hi, thanks, Sophie. So my name's Heather Dorr. I'm UK Head of Data at UST-Global. We're in the process of, we're building a data practice based out of Leeds. So it's great to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you both. And Shireen, I think most people now are probably aware of yourself as well. So I want to, I guess, split this panel discussion into three main pillars, and covering the topic of business, culture, I think, and technology challenges that you may face with the adoption of AI. So I guess, Didym, we've had, some pre-conversations through this, and I know you, like I said, have a wealth of experience in this industry. Just what are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen either people or organizations that have faced with adopting AI?
Thank you so much, Sophie. Actually, they are very much aligned with what you presented in the beginning. We at Accenture have done extensive research on businesses' adoption of AI. Actually, the latest one was just last December. And what we found are the top three reasons. One is employee adoption, very related to strategy and culture. The second one is seeing ROI of these AI investments, which is related to you develop a POC, but if you can't scale it, or if it stays in just one department, one silo, then there's no success. And the third one is structure. And actually AI ethics as well. So it all ties up to people, culture, and aligning on the strategy, which in my humble opinion is all responsible AI. So that's why we are passionate to start from giving comfort to the people that AI is an amazing technology and to everyone's benefit.
Brilliant, thank you for that. And Heather, just how about yourself, I guess, a top line? What sort of some of the biggest challenges that you have seen today?
Yes, so just to add to that really, sort of having worked within large enterprises and sort of run my own startup and such like in the sort of data space and AI space, I think one of the biggest challenges at the moment in business and certainly within enterprises, for some enterprises, is just the awareness of just how important it is and it's going to be within the next few years for that enterprise to successfully adopt AI, given the pace of change from disruptors and the like.
Brilliant. And I guess, we've got a number of different business leaders here and really thinking, I guess, at the top level at that business angle. I guess, if you were to give any advice to sort of CXO type leaders today, what should they think about? Where should they start, I guess, with all of this? Because we've covered a broad framework, but where would you start in terms of getting that kind of foundation right?
Thank you, Sophie. So we try to keep it extremely simple. Basically, we call it data AI journey to cloud. And the first thing is if you're a large enterprise, then that data modernization, data migration is critical. And if you're a smaller enterprise, then having the right structure, right data strategy is critical. The second horizon, as we call it, is about adding AI-powered capabilities. So these capabilities can be AI-driven sales, AI-driven supply chain, operations management, whatever is critical for that organization in that point of time. Obviously, post-COVID, supply chain is a big focus, as Dan mentioned. And the third horizon, which is very exciting for all of us in the industry, is what we call intelligent enterprise. I personally love autonomous enterprise, where humans and machines work coherently together, where the organization is taking care of itself, of course, managed by humans. So that is the journey we usually take our clients through.
Yeah, and then just tell me a little bit more there. You referenced, I guess, adding AI to business processes, which is sort of kind of augmenting that process, I guess, rather than fully automate. How do you take customers through that journey to assess, what could be a good business process to enhance with AI versus actually ones that we shouldn't touch? What type of experience should you be taking your business through to understand, to do that assessment?
So we have various frameworks depending on the urgency for this. So the most important thing is, of course, the industry scenarios. Accenture's strength, I should say, is to bring in the industry expertise, know-how, together with the right technology. So obviously, in this maturity of this technology, it's critical to understand what are the challenges and opportunities in a vertical industry, and within that, the client's specific use cases. So for a process, it could be, if we are talking about sales insights or sales intelligence, for instance, maybe this client or this organization wants to increase revenues to make sure to predict their sales in this crazy period that we are in. So that's where we start, very much focused on the industry needs and then the client's specific use cases, because having a POC here and there does not help scale. It's about infusing AI with the employees' adoption, and low-code, no-code, I know we'll discuss this a bit, but low-code, no-code also plays a huge role in that.
And how would you, I guess, get to the point where AI has actually been successful, I guess, in that? So you set your mission, by the sound of it, you set your goal. How are you going to understand whether AI is doing what it needs to be doing within that particular?
As with everything in business, measuring, setting the right success criteria, the right success metrics, and making sure it's the employees, not just management, as Dan mentioned earlier, and measuring that progress for everything, every use case. AI implementation will say, okay, here's the uplift in whatever the objective was, and measuring that over a very well-defined timeline is key for success.
Yeah, and you referenced a little bit there about the intelligent enterprise as well. What's your sort of definition, I guess, of the intelligent enterprise for the audience here today?
So we start off in the second horizon with infusing AI across, adding AI-driven capabilities as well. So the end goal, the vision, and I'm personally very excited about this, is of course infusing it so successfully that the whole organization becomes autonomous and becomes like an ecosystem, a living system, as we call it at Accenture, rather than a department there using some AI and another department there using automation and so on. So it's actually everything needs to come together, and of course with responsible AI, with humans managing it. So it's a bit difficult to describe in a short panel, but I would strongly recommend our Human and Machine book, basically written by our leaders in technology, Paul Doherty. Fascinating book, and it really is all about actually autonomous intelligent enterprise.
Brilliant, thanks, Dylan. And Heather, obviously you spent when we spoke before, sort of over 20 years, I guess, sort of in the data world, and have seen lots of different, I guess, organisations approach this. We now sort of move on to more of a technical perspective. What should some of maybe the more technical leaders here, I guess, be thinking about when adopting AI?
Well, one of the key things I think. And we spoke about it when we discussed before. We've spoken about it already about the number of proof of concepts that happen, and quite often at the moment it can be the proof of concept shouldn't really be the end point of a project, a data and AI project. It should really be the beginning of how you're going to take that. If it's hopefully a successful proof of concept, how you're going to take that through to production, and that comes in. I mean, that's a combination of people and culture change along with the technological changes. How are you going to take what could be some Python script or whatever and take it into production state, and that takes us into machine learning ops and other aspects, which is the next step from DevOps through to is the successful productionization of AI, those kind of techniques. So that's one area, I think, MLOps.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It was promising to see that Gartner was reporting that there was a higher expectation in the next 4 years of projects actually getting into production. I know certainly from a vendor perspective of Microsoft, we spend a lot of time in that kind of proof of concept stage, and really dying to get, I think, projects into production, I guess, to help achieve that business transformation. We spoke a little bit, I guess, previously about the sort of data maturity curve, I guess, you see kind of organizations go on. What does that kind of mean for you, I guess, in relation to AI?
And I spoke about this morning as well in my earlier presentation. So it depends. I think that you've got the data maturity curve within it's you start at one end in terms of the data drudgery, and then you move through progressively to become sort of an AI butterfly, and it's all very lovely. There's hard work in between there, and you have to. The key thing is recognizing, to start with, any company, any business, recognizing where they are on that curve, and also, where do they want to get to? Because maybe not every company wants to be an AI butterfly, So what's your goal? What's your end point here? And then that comes, brings in your requirements really for a data strategy if you don't have one already. And as we've been discussing, your data strategy can help really provide you the roadmap for what you're going to do, both technologically and culturally, to get from A to B along the maturity curve, and and what will drop out of that as well are the key sort of business objectives that we've also spoken about, the areas that can show the business that the given business the benefits of working in this way, and should hopefully bring across that meshing and that the sort of the full-on cultural change that takes an organization to become completely data driven.
Yeah, I like that data mesh. Official data mesh about the other day, which was interesting. But I suppose I'm going to come to you. Not give you a break, albeit at the end of the day. I know that we're exhausted. But data silos, data quality. These tend to be some of the challenges, I guess, that people are facing, particularly in organisations, I guess, have a legacy IT system. But there are also sort of more startup, smaller organisations at the event today that will no doubt still have, I guess, some of these same challenges. I guess any just to kind of experience or guidance from yourself about, again, where to start maybe in terms of tackling those silos, tackling that data quality sort of issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing we got to realize is AI value chain is pretty complicated. If you look from start to end, there's that leadership, then there is that designer element where you need the business analysts, service designers, you need architects, then eventually you need data engineers and data scientists. And I think this really needs to embed as a mindset and a culture. And when you are actually trying to sort of leverage the power of AI or embed AI as a technology, you really got to understand, do you have a problem statement? What's the value chain? What is the ROI? And I think you got to start from maybe a top-down approach in this case, where leaders really drive the vision and the business purpose and try to solve a problem. If you really don't have a problem, you don't need to start. Simple as that. And any organization who's actually making a start in terms of AI, they need to really think through all of these, probably the steps, the frameworks, and obviously all the data, AI, regulatory and ethical and responsible barriers. How can you overcome all of that? So I think it is pretty much like Heather mentioned, it's a mesh. Leadership, technical capability over here, various verticals, various capability that we need to manage. And the idea is you really need to ensure that someone is really architecting this and owning this. Someone really is designing this for your organization, really understanding the organization's capability, where they stand. So as Didam, you mentioned, we need to understand where is their maturity level. So based on this, we really need to adapt all these moving parts. And 80% of the projects fail because there's lack of data. And the other projects who have data, they still fail because they don't have a designer or they don't have a vision. So I think all of these are equally important parameters, in my opinion.
It's slightly, it's so disappointing to think that projects fail due to lack of data when there's been such an explosion of data in the world, and actually some people have far too much data and go the other way. Yeah. So kind of, I guess this mesh concept, it does really sound like it's built upon that kind of final pillar, I guess, coming back to culture. And I was actually reading a really interesting article. It was actually by Gartner, again, just about the kind of accountability that certainly you have to put in terms of the individuals within your organization around, taking responsibility for the data, thinking through and through how does this relate back to business value, at all times thinking about business value and not data for data's sake. So I guess maybe, Didam, you mentioned, I guess, a little bit earlier in terms of kind of low code, no code, and citizen developers. And I guess that kind of concept, it comes back to people, doesn't it, and skills. What's been some of your experience in that cultural element of adopting AI?
I mean, in terms of cultural elements, both my experience at Microsoft and also Accenture does prioritize the leadership taking very concrete steps to embrace their employees, help them, give them comfort that this is good for the company and individuals as a whole. So those are the most successful organizations in terms of adopting AI, and not just adopting it, but scaling it, making a true differentiator out of it for themselves in their industries. So our suggestions would be, first of all, to really sit down, take the time to slow down, to speed up. Why would, let's say, a finance department in an organization could benefit from using AI? Maybe it's forecasting that people hate to do every month, every quarter, whatever it is. And that AI piece will help free up some time, both from the finance teams and the sales teams, so everyone will be happier and doing their own core competence. So making that explanation, giving that comfort is incredibly important. We, let's say, in the midst of AI and excitement and all of this, may think that's obvious to everyone, but no, it's not obvious. The elephant in the room is usually people's fears that they will lose their job, they will lose their teams, and what happens next. So they don't want to adopt it for very natural humanistic reasons. So that's one thing. The second thing is low code, no code. So I would recommend, especially small, medium enterprises, and of course large enterprises as well, to look into these platforms like Power Platform or UiPath and so on very, very seriously, because all of these platforms are offering incredible tools to create citizen developers of our employees. So, and it's a very fulfilling upskilling from an employee's perspective. In other words, if I am able to create a robot or a bot for myself to do the, let's say, not so fun tasks during my day, I'm a happier person, and the organization has actually used AI to improve themselves as a whole. So there's that long tail of tasks that can increase productivity incredibly significantly, and yet it's a low cost way of adopting AI. So we are very excited about the future in the low code, no code space.
Okay, so yeah, thanks for that, Didem. And I suppose what can come with that, I think it's great because you drive obviously that kind of, you know, speed and acceleration, I guess, of innovation. It's really empowering, I think, for people in an organization. Yes. To do that, really, which is great, and particularly from sort of job satisfaction. I guess maybe coming to you, Heather, a little bit on the flip side, though, is obviously by doing that, there can be implications, as we know, around the responsible AI kind of concept. So I guess from just some of your experience, you know, being kind of, you know, heavily involved in sort of customers in the field, what's the kind of approach that, you know, our business leaders here today would need to be really thinking about? Where do they start?
I think that's just it. It's having the awareness of, I mean, the low code, no code options are fantastic for how they empower, you know, citizen data scientists and others. You have challenges though, of course. It's like, for example, you know, bias in data can have massive implications on the associated machine learning models, and, you know, AI, the associated AI, for example, can appear prejudiced basis in you know, and so for me, it's having that holistic view of you know, it's ensuring that all the tools that are available to you know, empower people, which is fantastic and actually really quite fundamental for you know, an organization to affect change in this space. Having those tools, but also having that awareness of the risks, and that the tools can do so much for you. But and I don't mean to, I'm not trying to sort of upplay these, but you know, they're very important, and that awareness of you know, it relates to ethics, and it relates to equality, and you know, diversity of developers, for example, in AI.
Yeah, so I mean, it's you know, we've actually put in Microsoft, just for our kind of own internal, I think, process, we have sort of an ethical AI committee, which is actually quite an interesting kind of starting point, because what it forces people to do is come together across the business, actually, you know, put a topic to the forum to talk through and come to a conclusion about how we approach it. And I think, you know, definitely that type of approach, it gets people talking, it gets people thinking about it, and it gets people kind of agreeing the best approach. You get different perspectives on it, because I suppose, let's face it, none of us necessarily know what the right or wrong answer is, I guess, to you know, the kind of AI use cases, I guess, in the real world. So yeah, certainly I suppose an ethical committee is certainly something that we can work quite well. But just, I guess, a kind of a final point for me almost before we wrap up. I guess I've mentioned an ethical AI committee there. What that tends to be is a grouping of people, both certainly the business and IT, coming together, as well as subject matter experts. And in this kind of pre-discussion, we spoke about, you know, shadow IT and the challenges of that. I guess kind of any thoughts, you know, in terms of, again, the adoption of AI, I guess where that can kind of pose a challenge, and I guess how we try and address that.
Sorry, Heather, go ahead.
I'm probably going to say quite similar things. So I mean, I was going to say, you know, shadow IT can, well, I was talking about this earlier. Shadow IT can be very effective, but and I've led a shadow IT teams in a number of different organisations. But that said, you know, but that said, I see it's more effective when the IT, you know, when the IT teams and the business teams work together. That's far more effective. You know, shadow IT happens because of the need, and then, you know, it's so that communication between the business and IT, if you can, you know, reach out and have those conversations, and it's hard because, you know, there are very many reasons why it can be hard, but what I see now, it can be most effective when you know, when linked and that communication is taking place and people are working together.
Yeah, I suppose it's that consistency across the organisation that feels so important when it comes to the adoption of AI. All of the different, like we said, the people, the process, and the technology coming together collectively. And I guess that potential shadow IT, they've got to be involved in that and, become part of that single messaging, I guess, to drive it. So
it's the recognition that, the IT guys have some great skills, as do the business head, the skills and knowledge, and bringing them all together is the best place to be.
Absolutely. Sorry, Didem, you were going to...
It's all along the same lines. I was just going to say, in order to make AI inclusive and bring up all the concerns, all the risks equally and properly, that's why we need involvement and embracement from all parts of the organization. And that's why I'm personally very excited about low-code, no-code, because that is the way to democratize AI. If more employees are able to understand, okay, this isn't rocket science, actually, I can do this as well, then they will raise their hands when they see some issues or risks, etc. So I think it will all come together, but we do need to make sure we comfort people and we embrace all the, let's say, feedback and join forces as one industry, not just big organizations or this, but governments, educators, industry. So thank you, Sharon, for hosting this panel as well. Not only.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. So we're about time to wrap up. Thank you both for joining today, and I guess giving us some of your perspectives. And appreciate, Heather, you did a longer session early in the day. So yeah, shameless plug, I think, for that.
Yeah.
I guess if we kind of wrap up, I think what I'm hearing is like a reference consistency. I think thinking about a framework, what your own framework looks like for success, I guess, across an organization, really relating that back to the business goals, the business objectives and the priorities, but don't let it, I guess, the kind of technology challenges you have, I think, hinder that innovation. Because like if you don't get moving, you won't know what insights and value you can bring, and therefore what data you may already have and data you may be missing, and just making sure that you're aligning those people and the culture within that organization to it, and really holding people, I think, accountable for that. And as a result, let's hope the adoption of AI, according to Gartner, certainly in the next 4 years, we'll see a lot more moving into production. So I'm going to hand back to Sharon, and like I said, thank you very much to both of you. And Sharon will be wrapping up the day for everybody. So thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, Sophie. There's one question that I just want to address. So someone asked, how can we provide business case when they have loads of data and lots of huge challenges, and how can they find relationships? So I'll quickly give my response to that. I think it depends what your data is all about. And I think you probably got to start with a simple data analysis. Really want to see what's your problem statement here? Are you trying to use that data to sort of understand your customer or engage with your customer? So engagement could be one particular benefit that you want to get out of it. Other thing could be operational data, where you want to sort of optimize the way you're operating or using your particular pipeline or supply chain or anything in that case. If it's simple optimizations or transformation, such as fraud detection or anomaly detection, is pretty much what that data could potentially do. So really, the use cases are, do you need to empower anything, or do you need to transform anything or optimize a particular operation? Does anyone else wants to add anything onto that?
I couldn't agree more with it. And I think back to Didem's point, for me, it's all about them measuring it. Because if you have an ambition to increase your customer satisfaction to 97% as an example, what have you got to do to get there? And data might just be one component and process might be. So I couldn't agree more that it's all comes back to those three core pillars.
Fantastic.
And it's infusing across the process rather than just one touch point. It's really looking at the whole improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's that hypothesis, like what could social analytics along with your transactional analytics can give you. And I think that that's the feedback loop. So I think discovering that and finding that sort of data is really useful in this case. No, I think that was absolutely brilliant. Thank you for the insightful discussion. And with this, I think we'll come to the closing part of the session, where I'm just going to give a quick roundup, if that's all right with everyone. So it's been an exciting day one for all of us, and I know most of you might be attending since morning. If you haven't, it's fine. There's all of this information recorded on our platform, so feel free to get a ticket if you want to access it for both the days. There's also information coming tomorrow as well. I think one thing I really want to address, what I learned or everyone experienced from today was, there has been challenges. COVID has been a massive challenge for all of us. And I think at this time of adversity, we decided as a community, giving up is not an option. And we really wanted to show that power of community to all of you. Along with you and many, we have suffered as well. And we truly believe in power of innovation. And this broadcast is literally to demonstrate the true capability of fighting spirit of everyone, each one of us, and power of people coming together. So as AI Technaut, and all of you have probably gone through challenges, what we want to offer here is knowledge base for all of you to leverage power of knowledge, strategies that everyone is sharing. So experts like Didam, Sophie, and Heather, they brought in so many tips and tricks and strategies that you could leverage and build something beneficial and trustworthy for yourself, and come back stronger tomorrow to disrupt the AI disruption. I mentioned earlier today, this is pretty much Industry 4.0. Some call it industry revolution wave, fourth wave, and it's like tsunami. So you have two choices: get hit by it or arm yourself with a surfboard. So these strategies, these tips and solutions that experts are giving you pretty much is that surfboard so that you could ride that wave. So most importantly, we did it because we believe in power of advanced tech, and that is the most inspiring force for all of us. A community with power of advanced tech is the most inspiring force out there. We did this. We believe in tech. We believe that you could do this. And together, with the power of community, we believe that you and I and all of us conquer innovation and do something beneficial. Our message today was pretty much to inspire each and every one of you to build trustworthy and beneficial AI solution. And that's it. Thank you.
And we're live. Well, that's it. That rounds up day one of the summit for you. We're all looking forward to day two. As Sharon pointed out, it's been a very interesting year for us about whether we should actually, well, some said we shouldn't, some said we wouldn't, and some said we couldn't, but we did, and we have, and we're here. So it's been a very interesting day from start to finish for hopefully you guys at home and watching in, as well as us here as well. So please join us tomorrow for day two of the summit, and we'll see you then. Thanks very much. Have a good evening.
Innovation is your imagination becoming a reality. Innovation paves the way to success, enables change, and creates opportunities. The time is now, and the technology is ready for us. But are you ready for innovation? At AI Tech North, everyone is invited, from learners to leaders, to connect with AI champions, to drive new strategies, to disrupt the AI disruption. From smart cities, fintech to health tech, showing you the ethical ways and opening doors to endless possibilities. It's all happening at AI Tech North Summit 2020. Come and exchange ideas, get involved and witness the power of intelligence. Let's learn, inspire and together bring innovations of tomorrow today.
Well, today's event was amazing. So much to learn, so much to action upon, and so much inspiration. It's been an amazing event for me to see different people's perspectives. I think the AI Tech North platform is probably one of the best for inspiring the leaders in the world to take action and make something happen. It's great that it's focused, and it's great that it actually exists here in the world. I can't wait for the next year's conference to happen as well. The one thing I want to tell you to do is go and do something. Take some action, whatever, however small it is, whatever it is, just do something and make the North the amazing place that it should be. Hope you had a good day. I've had a good day.
It's been really insightful, inspirational, and thought-provoking day at Tech North. It's only the first day, and I hope you can make it there tomorrow. It's another full day. I know it's digital, so get your cup of teas, coffee, get comfortable. We'll see you tomorrow. I've really enjoyed myself. I hope you too. And if you weren't here, you missed out. Well, you can watch the recording, but we'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, so it's been a great day so far today. Lots of really interesting stuff shared. I think AI Tech North is such a great platform to get all those views and knowledge together in a place where we can share with the community in the North, and because we're virtual, we can share them worldwide. Lots more to come tomorrow, so please do join to learn lots more about subjects that are so critical and so important and so disruptive for all of our futures.